and so it goes, and so it goes, and so it goes.
Cheese curd bushes.
Okay.
Right? So you can just pick cheese curds off the cheese curd bush.
And so it goes, and so it goes, and so it goes, and so it goes.
Are cheese curds more of a fruit?
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristen Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hello, Wisconsin!
Hello, Wisconsin. Welcome to the 11 o'clock hour of As Goes Wisconsin on this Monday, August 14th. We are happy to invite back a guest we had approaching a year ago. John Plageman is a social worker in Brown County and also is the founder of Section Yellow, which you guys ended up getting a lot of press last year for Section Yellow, didn't you, John?
We were very blessed to get some notoriety and some coverage. The Today Show really boosted up us into the stratosphere for sure. That was a shocker when they called. That's weird when you get a. I'm jumping right in, so I apologize. But this
we only it goes fast now. The show's only 2 hours.
So when you're in a meeting with New York Today Show producers and then also the Packer Lambeau Field head crew, that was interesting because here's one thing that I had to tell the truth, which was weird. Because
you're so used to lying?
No. Remember, I'm a recovering addict and alcoholic, so I do have some character defects that I'm always working on. And one of the things that we did with the Packers when we first got approval of Section Yellow in 2019 is we normally put up yellow balloons to show everyone where we are. But when one of the yellow balloons popped at the first game, it sounded like a gunshot going off in the concourse area. Yeah. So we're like, we can't do this. And I'm like, well, what are we going to do with 500 balloons we ordered? I'm like, we're going to give them away. We're going to give them away in the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter, there's no alcohol served. That can be considered Section Yellow's fourth quarter. We can have fans blow up the balloon, whether they're a sober ally, so that's just somebody that supports somebody in sobriety, or they're sober themselves, or they're in recovery. They can let them go. And then we'll see how many balloons pop up around Lambeau Field. We didn't get official permission for that. We just kind of did that on the slide.
Ruh-roh.
So when the Today Show came out, I emailed the Packers ahead of time, and I said, hey, I got this mic. So here's the other weird thing that I always love about being a part of the Packers family now is we started a new Lambeau Field tradition.
That's pretty cool.
We're in it. You're going to see them, and it starts a conversation up, and that's all we want to do. We're Section Yellow's whole role is to just sober awareness. Just be cool people in sobriety. Know that that's an alternative. No, you don't have to get wasted at every event you go to, or especially a Packer game. It's okay to have one or two beers. Nobody's going to think that there's something less of you, or if you want to be sober the entire event. So when they see the yellow balloons pop up, not only do the kids love them, but fans are going, what's with the yellow balloon thing? And you're like, oh, that's because I'm sober. We just throw it up there, just for whatever. And then now you're starting to see them pop all over the place. Yeah. So Saturday is our first, we did family night.
Okay.
Forgot the balloons to put in the backpack. So we missed that one. Because we're doing all the events now. They want us a part of all the events. And so this Saturday for the Patriots game at 7 o'clock when they start, 7 o'clock, I think it's game time. We will have the Section Yellow table, which is outside the concourse in Section 110. Here's the other cool thing. So when we have our meeting with the Packers, I don't think the Packers like me calling it the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but I heard it on the commercial talking about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory in Wisconsin. It is like going there because you don't get to see the other side of it. You just get to see what's in front of you. And when we get to go meet with the Packers, I'm just like a little kid, going to the candy store. And it's so cool when we ask them for a few things, and now they really embrace us. We asked for water. We used to have a designated driver thing, and the NFL went away with it. And at the NFL, Roger Goodell's there, by the way. So if he's hearing this, we love you, Roger. But we're progressive in Wisconsin. We're bringing progressive back in Wisconsin, starting with the Packers. So we want to just bring water back and give it away. We had funding where we could buy the water at $5 or $6 or $7 a pop. And they're like, well, there's logistical stuff and contracts, and we got to work out this and that. A week later, they're like, okay, you got 2 cases of water.
So you can give them to designated drivers?
No, we're just giving them away.
Oh, nice.
We're giving them
away. It
away.
is always silly to me at events like that where I was at the state fair and I asked for just a cup of water with ice. And they're like, well, we can't really do that because they want you to buy the bottle of water. It's like, it's so silly to me that like, and just give people water instead of making them upsell them so much. We're talking to John Plageman, who is a social worker in Brown County and the founder of Section Yellow, which, if you've not heard of Section Yellow, is a support group for anyone who goes to Packer games and is sober or a sober ally. And it's supposed to be, it's a safe space for you to be sober at an event that isn't that necessarily known for its sobriety. And Wisconsin is not necessarily known for its sobriety. I don't know. I'm sure you saw this because this is obviously something you work so closely with. But did you see the article that kind of made the rounds last week? It said that the headline was Wisconsin's death grip with alcohol is killing more residents. Excessive alcohol use is taking a heavy toll in a state that celebrates its drinking culture. Like that, I saw that headline. And, as someone who tries to incorporate Wisconsin culture and humor in a lot of the stuff I do, it kind of makes me second guess making jokes about our drinking. You know what I mean? And like where that line is of like, because it's a problem.
It's a stereotype.
Yeah.
It's a caricature. Interesting enough, and I haven't read that article, so now you're going to make me look at it. Please. The Attorney General came and visited us last week. So where this Section Yellow started was the Brown County Alcohol and Drug Coalition for Change. We're a community coalition with all the major AODA, alcohol and drug abuse players in the community. And he came and met with 3 of us and just want to know what was going on, because we're making ripples, and ripples are turning into waves, and we're getting attention. And to like the Drink Wisconsinly and all those type of like little tongue-in-cheek type things, I don't mind it because it brings, once again, it's bringing up the conversation of drinking, and it's making even you, Kristen, think about, well, I wonder if this is good or not. And even you just thinking about it is making awareness, and that's what we want to do. We don't want to be like in anybody's face. We definitely know that drinking is okay. We definitely know that Wisconsin, I mean, that's why we started it here. I mean, and we've talked about this last time. I love Wisconsin culture. My mom and I, side note, just did. You ever hear Story Corps?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Story Corps is here in Green Bay. And I wanted to get the story down between my mom, who was an advocate Al-Anon member, and the crap that I put her through in my addiction and alcoholism, and me being sober and leaving that for my kids, because that goes to the Library of Congress. We released that to everybody. So we had a 45-minute conversation between a mom and a son that were at each other's heads for so many years. Mom throwing up her arms, what am I going to do? And a son who now is doing this show and talking about sober awareness. I mean, and my mom was from Green Bay. So the cool part is she's seen it.
John, we had Peggy from Brooklyn call just to clarify about the balloons. You're not releasing these into the air, are you? Because Peggy
they're not
mentioned
helium.
Okay, because Peggy mentioned that she and some neighbors who are farmers, those balloons end up in their animals' feed, and they end up in their animals. I mean, they really are bad for the environment to release them in that way.
So this is awesome that we already got response and people are listening to the balloon thing. We have gotten things from environmentalists, and my response is the plastic cups alone would outweigh the 20 to 30 balloons we give out. And these aren't helium. You blow them up, and if it's in the cold and it's minus 10 degrees and you don't have a wind, they just go right down the stairs. You know, it's a minimal impact of a silent statement for somebody to make that might still want to remain anonymous, but wants to let people see it. So if you go to games, you might see like maybe less than 10 bouncing around. So I do want to address that. And I am kind of minimizing that, but that's the best that we can do. I still think the statement outweighs the the environmental danger of, and it's not going to any farmers' lands. These aren't helium. We won't blow them up. We give them to people, and then they just put it in their pocket. And then if they remember to blow it up and put it in the fourth quarter, it's cool. So,
because you said, as far as like not having them already blown up, because if they pop, it sounds like a gunshot.
Exactly.
That would be bad. Yes,
that would be scary. We're talking to John Plageman we're going to take a break soon. But as far as because I know next month is September. September is Sobriety Month, and so I think it's just talking more about like when people choose to reevaluate their relationship with alcohol. What does that look like? What do the resources look like? Because as far as beyond Section Yellow, even in the Green Bay area, what are some of the resources that you recommend for people?
So September, yes, Alcohol Awareness Month. We're throwing a big party. We're throwing a big, huge party at Bay Beach, September 9th. And we are opening it up to everyone. And we're going to have burgers and brats and hot dogs for the first 100 people. We're giving away Bay Beach ride tickets for the first 100 people. There's going to be some extra surprises. We're having a band play there, which is crazy. I hope it doesn't rain like today, but we're having a band play there. The alcohol and drug abuse awareness programs in Green Bay. I also do another project called Sober Green Bay, and it's where I go out to businesses and nonprofits, pharmacies, wherever they will have me, law enforcement, and I do a Sober Green Bay presentation and touch base on, how Green Bay is in the top binge drinking cities. Then it goes Appleton's number one, then Oshkosh, Fond du Lac. Okay.
We got to go to a break, John. So we'll finish this on the other side of the break. John Plageman is the founder of Section Yellow and a social worker in Brown County. We're talking about sobriety and binge drinking in Wisconsin. If you have questions or thoughts, 844-967-2789. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I'm Kristen Bry. She is Jane Madnair, and we are talking to John Plageman, who is a social worker in Brown County and also the founder of Section Yellow, a support group that supports those who choose to be sober at Packer games. And in general, it's part of a bigger group that supports sobriety in Brown County, in Green Bay. And as you said, John, Green Bay is top 5 binge drinking city.
We moved to 8 with the Wisconsin Journal Sentinel, so that's good. We're trending in a more neutral kind of direction, but we're still in the top 10. If you take Wisconsin in general, I hate to say this, the joke of the whole nation is that almost all 72 counties exceed the national average in binge drinking and alcohol abuse. We're at like 23%, and the national average is 19. Green Bay is around 26 to 28%. And we haven't even really got accurate COVID stats, which we would all assume would go up after COVID with the isolation and loneliness that we experienced. So one of the things that I do outside of Section Yellow, kind of when I put on my work hat, is I do also a Sober Green Bay awareness. It's mocked and kind of copied after the Purple Angels Alzheimer's awareness initiative, where if a business does this presentation, like a restaurant or a bar, they're just more soberly aware of their staff, are aware of people. I always use this kind of example with my mom and I. We went to a supper club, or took the family out to a supper club about a year or two ago, and the bartender kept razzing us about how great his old fashions were. And I'm like, dude, we just want a water and a soda. I'm going to tip you the same, man. Don't worry about it. Just because we're not paying $7, $8, I don't even know what an old fashioned costs at a supper club anymore. $7, $8, we'll pay it. So this at least brings awareness that not everybody is drinking, and how to kind of approach people with not assuming that everybody's drinking. And the cool part is we have these Sober Green Bay cards, which are like little business cards. And on the front says Sober Green Bay. Obviously, we're going to use Sorta Packer colors, green and gold. And on the back is a QR code to the Brown County Sober Green Bay link. And it has all the AODA resources anyone would need, including Beginning the Journey, which breaks down all the jargon and acronyms. And we talk about how to pay for it, transportation, all those type of elements that I do through my job at the Aging and Disability Resource Center of Brown County. and we go through probably about 50 or so a week. I know there's Stru's Pharmacy, which is a very well-known kind of mom and pop pharmacy in Green Bay. They're asking me for about 100 or so a month, just them alone. And that's people just grabbing and going, because it could be a loved one. It could be a family member. It could be that yourself with a moment of clarity. You're not at a bar and you're just walking through and you're like, man, what is that? Sober Green Bay. You know what? Let me pick this up. You look at it. Oh, I can give this to my loved one, right? Or I can research it myself. Where do I start? This is the starting point. I did it with the Green Bay Police Department, and they love the fact that if there is a domestic violence call, if there is an OWI call or something like that, and they're with a family member, instead of kind of stumbling through the conversation, which I'm not even great at, you can give them the card at least and go, here's some hope. Here's some hope for you.
Absolutely.
Real simple hope. And
I was going to ask, because one of the things that's been popping up more in Milwaukee, and we interviewed one of the co-owners of Intoxicated, which is a sober bar in Racine.
Mhm.
Is there any sober bars and places that have popped up that just have really good mocktails and stuff? Has that started to gain in popularity in Green Bay at all?
We're looking. We get approached by that. To the best of my knowledge and experience, we don't have anything like that up here yet. I've been approached a couple of times about starting something up like that. We've had some ideas about that. The mocktails is an interesting area. We've been approached twice by these national mocktail companies, and to be honest with you, when we tested them, it didn't taste like booze, but it tasted like you needed to mix it with something. It was so strong, and it was a miss the mark. That
like a can of something instead of an actually
we had bottles. We had a New York company that had bottles, and then we had a local, I think it's local, that had cans. I have kids, I got parents. Let's all try it. What do you think? We took a couple sips. It wasn't our cup of tea. When I think of mocktails, because I took my kids to Summerfest this year, and we stay at County Clare right downtown, and mocktails are kind of like fruity drinks mixed with kind of soda. Don't think of like a Shirley Temple, if people remember what a Shirley Temple is.
I remember.
Do you remember?
Or a kitty cocktail, as they're better known in
cocktails
Wisconsin.
with the cherries. You want about 5 or 6 of them. It's sort of like that, but I think they're coming up with more creative ways, and we're getting there. We're getting there. So we only have 2 minutes left, so I want to make sure that we get the information out for the event on September 9th. Oh, yes. So Celebrate Recovery, Bay Beach. It's an amusement park in Green Bay. If you haven't been around, it's one of the old establishments of Green Bay. We have taken over the pavilion. We can seat up to 200 people. We're expecting 300 people plus. I'm thinking 300 to 400. My counterpart, Tom, is thinking 1,000. We got a band playing, like a legit band. We have giveaways. We have secret Section Yellow rocks that we're placing all over the place for the kids. I tried to get a lot of the mascots, Bernie Brewer, Bucky Badger, Bango. We couldn't get them. They were booked. But this is going to be a huge event, and it's free. It's open to the public. It's from 10 to 2 on Saturday, September 9th, which is opening season of Packer season.
Yeah. And I've been to Bay Beach. Bay Beach is very fun. It's a gem.
It is so wonderful.
Gem you guys have up there.
Oh, yeah. And it's 50 cents a ride, and we're giving away 10 tickets to almost the first 100 people. We might even be able to go a little bit more, but we wanted to make sure that this was easily fan-friendly, accessible. You don't even have to. You can leave your pocketbook at home. We got everything covered.
Awesome. Well, that sounds super fun. John, I can't wait to see what you guys do this season at the Packer games. You can find more about Section Yellow on their Facebook page. Mm-hmm. John Plageman, always a joy to talk to you.
Yes, thanks for having me. You guys have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. When we come back, we're going to talk to Brian Sampson and Issac Hoffman about the 5-year homeless plan for the city of La Crosse. This is As Goes Wisconsin. Stay tuned.
Maybe we make a deal. Maybe together we can get somewhere.
Well, welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I'm Kristen Bry. She is Jane Madnair. And truly, when I think of unhoused people in Wisconsin specifically, and thinking about our winters, it is always something that sounds so unbelievably daunting. Because it's bad enough when it's so hot, but truly when you think about the depths of winter and people who are struggling to find shelter, it is it
It's a
is
problem.
overwhelming to think about.
Yes.
And, certainly we see it in Milwaukee. But an area I didn't realize was dealing with it as much as it is La Crosse. And so joining us for this segment is Brian Sampson, who works for the who is the homeless services coordinator for the city of La Crosse, and Issac Hoffman, who is the director at the La Crosse Area Family Collaborative, which is part of La Crosse County Human Services Department. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess I didn't realize, because I don't live there, but that there is a growing homelessness issue in La Crosse that is actually, apparently from some couple of the articles I read, it's actually getting worse. And so what has the status been, or kind of what has the environment been so far that's causing this?
Yeah. So homelessness has been on the rise, especially unsheltered homelessness, for the last several years. Kind of right before the pandemic hit, we started to see an increase. And in La Crosse, just like in every place across the country, really that's struggling with homelessness, it's because of lack of housing, especially lack of affordable housing. That's the number one common denominator when talking about any community that's struggling. And La Crosse has a housing shortage, and especially a shortage of affordable housing.
And so as the plans as far as affordable housing have been going, is that part of some of the solutions that you guys are working on as far as getting people in different places that are unoccupied right now? Or what have some of the plans to alleviate homelessness in the past look like?
You want to take that, Isaac?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, so there's been a lot of planning over the past, decade, really. But within the last 5 years, there's been a ton of community-wide planning. And so, what's changed recently is COVID, and that made the issue across the country more visible. It also pushed communities to do a lot of short-term planning, and in our community here locally, we're no different. And so, really, all that we're attempting to do is to create a community-wide plan as coordinators, and take a more coordinating role, as opposed to historically just having a seat at the table. As far as county and city government go, we've always been engaged and involved, but more so just as partners. And right now, our community lacks a coordinator, somebody kind of to lead the charge as it relates to planning. So that's all we're looking to do.
Got it. And one of the things you just said, Brian, that I want to call out is a different category of being an unsheltered person versus that you can still be an unhoused person, but it's more invisible, right? There's an entire population of people who are not necessarily living on the streets, but they are couch hopping. And so when you guys talk about the different kind of, for lack of a better word, levels of being unhoused, like what does that look like, just for the clarity? Because I think sometimes people are very far removed from what the reality looks like for someone who is struggling with getting shelter and getting a house.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different definitions of homelessness depending on what federal agency you're using. If we're sticking to HUD, because a lot of funding that housing response agencies get are tied directly to those definitions. There's kind of the overall broad category of homelessness. So that would be anybody who's in a shelter. So in La Crosse, one of our primary shelter is the Salvation Army. So you can be sheltered homeless, and that would be under the broader category, or unsheltered. And really, unsheltered is anywhere not meant for human habitation. So that could be people sleeping in their cars. That could be people sleeping in the parks and parking ramps, in tents outside. All of that would fall under unsheltered homelessness. Actually, people who are couch surfing don't fall under that level 1 definition of homelessness for HUD. And so there's a lot of different counts that go out there, that are put out there, and people who are couch surfing actually wouldn't fall under that definition. So sheltered would be people sleeping in shelters. Unsheltered would be people in parks, cars, parking ramps, that kind of stuff.
We're talking to Brian Sampson, who is the Homeless Services Coordinator for the City of La Crosse, and Issac Hoffman, who is the Director at the La Crosse Area Family Collaborative, about specifically homelessness in La Crosse. And one of the questions, as far as, because when we pointed to one of the biggest problems that's not just La Crosse, but across the state, across the country, that's leading to homelessness, is the lack of affordable housing. And it's so funny because I feel like, not funny, but I think sometimes the general or conventional wisdom doesn't connect those two things. as far as the assumption sometimes that something must have gone terribly wrong, or there is a moral failing, or there is something,
Or a drug addiction.
or a drug addiction, or a mental health issue as far as how a person becomes homeless or becomes unhoused. And so, could you guys shed more light on how this really can happen to almost anybody, and that this is not something that is just because you didn't work hard enough, and like how common it actually is to people who had jobs or who were working hard, and it's just a series of events that can lead people to this situation?
I can take. I think the way that I look at it is just try to think about myself and my family and people that I know, and we all know folks that struggle, and the difference between getting out of those struggles and not sometimes is simply resources. So that can be both supports in terms of human beings and people that are close to us, friends and family, but obviously also economics and dollars. And the way that the fair market is, as it relates to housing, that it pushes a lot of people out, and so there's obviously no one reason that leads to somebody not having shelter, but the difference between getting out of that hole and not is just simply resources. And so, the housing's expensive, and in
Yeah.
a lot of markets, a lot of people get priced out of it. And if they're already living paycheck to paycheck with no couch to go crash on when something really bad happens, like a job loss, then sometimes they find themselves without shelter.
And gentlemen, I wonder too if you're seeing more elderly people who are in this situation because unfortunately, you get older, you develop more health issues, you are losing some of your supports as people are aging with you and dying. Are you seeing more elderly people who are unhoused?
Yeah, I think I don't have the exact statistics in front of me, but the average age of somebody who is homeless in the La Crosse area is something like mid 50s.
Oh, wow.
And so I think that definitely is an issue, especially with the aging population. It's a struggle.
So then, as far as different approaches when it comes to working in to alleviate homelessness, could you either of you explain what the housing first approach looks like and how that differs from maybe approaches from the past?
So overall, housing first can have a lot of different meanings and connotations. The definition that we're working off of is trying to get people into housing without any prerequisites or preconditions. So not asking somebody to work a treatment program first, not asking somebody to get a job, not asking them to do A, B, and C. It's how can we help connect you with housing of your choice and a correct support provider for you or supportive services for you. And so it's not just here's a handout of housing, it's people connecting people with housing and then giving them that chance to use the house as a building block for success and not the reward for success. And so really, I think that's the approach that we want to see is how can we help break down some of those barriers for people who have imperfect rental histories or who have struggles, help them get into housing, and at the same exact time connect them with a service provider who can help them work on whatever needs they want to or whatever needs that they have moving forward. And so that's really just the starting line, not the finish line for people when talking about housing first. But generally, those are the principles that we're working off of.
And I just wanted to add that one of the other guiding factors for us with that is making a decision whether we want to treat folks out on the street or treat folks in a habitable structure. The reality is that our community is providing supports for this population while they're on the street, and that's not safe or conducive to long-term stability. It's not the most economically feasible way to go about it. And so that's another thing as it relates to housing first is important to think about is where do we want to provide supports for folks on the street or in a safe environment.
Absolutely. I mean, it's something and it's evidence based, right? Like this has been tried in other communities, other cities across the country, as far as how much just if you give people homes, shockingly, it can help the problem. And so, as far as the 5-year plan that, as I know that you guys have been talking about, and I think there's a WPR article, is that baked into it? And so, if so, what does providing those units look like for La Crosse? As far as is there buildings that are already like zoned for this? Is there stuff that has to get built, or what does it look like to work within the community and the city and the county to provide housing?
Yeah, I would say that what we're looking at in the 5-year plan is looking for key stakeholders in the community to identify different strategies and priorities in the plan. Everybody, well, I feel, maybe not everybody, but I feel like the policymakers at the city level and the county level are aware of the housing shortage and will continue to provide that education. I think maybe putting buildings up is out of the scope of this plan, but we do need
Okay.
to figure out a way to bridge that gap between when the plan begins and until some of those housing projects can get up. There are several housing projects either or at different stages of development in La Crosse. Those will be helpful, and we need more. I think it's just figuring out, those take years and years to get up and going. And really, what has been successful in other communities is looking at not just one building where a bunch of people go and stay in that one building. It's giving people options so people can choose. Yes, a single family home works for me in my situation. No, I want to be in an apartment building. I want to be downtown. I want to be out on the outskirts, giving people those different options. So I think the plan will have to be, how can we as an entire community bridge that gap until some of those larger housing projects can get up and running.
Got it. And what is, like I kind of mentioned before, sometimes the general public's attitude towards homelessness is not always the most empathetic or sympathetic. And I think there's also sometimes where an idea in abstract sounds nice until it's going to be in your backyard. And so how supportive has the larger community been of some of the ideas that have been thrown out that can help? Have people been receptive? Has there been obstacles? Just generally, like, what's the attitude been like?
Brian, you can jump in and add to this. I think just in general, we're at a place in our community where everybody agrees that something needs to be done, and so it's a really good spot to be in. And so we're not. I don't want to say that we're not. We're definitely aware of different viewpoints and ideology around the topic, but that's not our goal to dive into. Our goal is to create some options for folks and bring the community together. And when I say community, the providers, the helpers, everybody that's engaged in this work. So in general, the response has been good and positive, that the city and the county are coming together, and those that might have different opinions about what to do and what the final plan should look like, we really haven't gotten to that point, other than to just kind of embrace the fact that we are coming together to do some planning.
That's great to hear. Well, in the short time that we have left, is there anything else you want people to know about the project, know about this issue, things that they could go learn more about?
I think just talking about that stigma of people who are experiencing homelessness, of by and large, speaking directly for the La Crosse community, these are our neighbors, people that grew up in our community, people that we worked with, went to school with, went to church with. And so I think that's just really important to understand. And just because somebody might have a mental health addiction or a drug addiction doesn't mean that they're any less worthy or shouldn't be worthy of receiving help or getting help.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much. Brian Sampson is the Homeless Services Coordinator for the City of La Crosse, and Issac Hoffman is the Director at the La Crosse Area Family Collaborative. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, gentlemen.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Take care.
All right. We're going to take one more break. We'll be back after this. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Fast enough so you can fly away.
Baby elephant walk. Now I know. Welcome back. This is As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Matnair, and we raised some money for some diapers yesterday.
Yes, it was great.
It was great. Well, the weather was mediocre.
A little spitty.
But if you on Sunday, my husband and I did a bit of a diaper fundraiser for Milwaukee Diaper Mission in Milwaukee, and it was supposed to be kind of like a Yacht Week themed white party, which most people got the memo. Some people just didn't. They're like, I don't own white. It's funny, when it comes to, like, I realized that with pink when I went to go see the Barbie movie. I was like, I don't own a lot of hot pink.
Right.
So, but we had it outside thinking, there'd be like Aperol spritzes and stuff. And the weather did not inspire.
It was a little on the chilly side. It was a little spitty. At least it's not like today.
No, it's not like today. But we had a fun time. I think I was trying to count in the picture because we didn't get an official account. But I think we have over 50 boxes of diapers of different sizes. There's some of the big, massive boxes. There's some that are small. So I have to go back through and count what we what we all got, but thank you to everyone who came to that.
Don't forget about online donations
Yep,
too.
and then online, we'll put that in today's show notes as well if you'd still like to donate what you can to the Milwaukee Diaper Mission. But yeah, it was fun.
It was fun.
And so I don't know. I don't have much else to. Do you have any other thoughts about the party?
I was Joe Zapecki, who was a friend of the show, and his wonderful wife Melissa were there, and we were talking about your baby nursery theme, which is elephants.
Yes.
And then I brought up the whole elephant lamp thing. And then your mother told me.
Oh, did she? I told her to keep that to
no,
herself.
she told me that there was already another elephant lamp. But she said the room is really dark, so you need the light.
Yeah, it was. Yes. So on Friday, you gave me a very adorable elephant lamp. And
not one where the trunk lights up the bulb, because I couldn't find any.
that one. Because apparently there is maybe just one elephant lamp for a nursery online, because my mom was listening to the show when you were mentioning a lamp, and she goes, "Oh, crap." And because in the back of her mind, she's like, "I bet we got the exact same lamp." And so she got to my house on Friday afternoon, or right after Friday after the show. She goes, "Let me see the lamp that Jane got you." I go, "Okay." And I showed it. She goes, "God,
it is the exact same lamp."
It's the exact same lamp. The brand that it made it is the same brand of the sheets in the baby blanket that she bought.
Okay.
And then she went up to the nursery and goes, "This will be fine. We'll just have both of them next to each other. This will work."
She was so cute. And then Joseph Pecky and I started talking about how disappointed I was. I could not find an elephant lamp with the trunk that would light it up. And he said, "This is your money-making idea, Jane.
There you go.
Do a donkey.
Oh.
Where the tail lights it up. And do an elephant where the trunk lights it up, and I can sell it to both political parties and make $1 billion.
Maybe we'll add that to our merch store." Although there is something ironic, I think, for me, who loves elephants so much, and to know that they are the representative of the Republican Party is a little like,
it's a symbol.
It's just a symbol.
Exactly.
I actually don't know the backstory of that. I'm sure one of our listeners knows the backstory of
why a donkey, why an
why
elephant?
a donkey, why an elephant, and where that dates back to.
You want to check in and impress us?
Yeah.
855.
If you know that off the top of your head,
844-967-2789.
We got 4 minutes left in the segment, so if you know that and want to give us a call right now, let's go for it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the other. I just have to. I feel like we've started the story, so now we have to keep giving updates when it happens. But over the weekend, there was a little bit, well, not really progress, but Zuckerberg, as in Mark Zuckerberg, has said that it's time to move on from the Musk cage fight.
Oh, and we were all so looking forward to it.
I know. So apparently there was a text thread that got published as far as him saying, going back and forth between Zuck and Musk, that if we're not going to actually do this, it's time to move on. But Musk has not necessarily backed down.
It kind of sounds like Elmo, though, was coming up with lots of excuses. "Oh, my neck hurts. I need to go have this looked at before I kick your butt." Okay. But now I'm okay. So let's,
He was never really going to do it.
No.
I mean, right now, Mark Zuckerberg is in like ridiculous shape and has actually been fighting
jiu-jitsu,
versus,
right?
versus Musk, who does not look like he's in ridiculous shape. But yeah, Mark Zuckerberg said it's time to move on from speculation that there will be a cage fight match between him and Elon Musk. Quote, "If Elon ever gets serious about a real date and official event, he knows how to reach me. Otherwise, time to move on." Zuckerberg posted Sunday on Meta's Threads, "I'm going to focus on competing with people who take the sport seriously."
Take that, Elmo. Meow.
And so maybe this is the end, unless Musk's ego refuses to let him let this die.
Well, my question, wasn't one of the whole things was they were going to do this fight, and then they were going to donate, the winner was going to donate to charity, right? So donate to charities, you guys.
Well, speaking of which, talking about donating to charities, do you see other multi-billionaire Bezos and his girlfriend, fiance, whatever, $100 billion? $100 million? $100 million to Maui.
Wow. Well, that's a good start.
It's a good start. I mean, it's still a fraction of what he's actually worth, but
Well,
that'll
certainly,
go. Hopefully, it'll go to the right places, and it will
No
go a long
kidding.
way. But that's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
I mean, and the truth is, you think about a place like Maui, there's probably a lot of wealthy people who are invested in that place being rebuilt, which doesn't negate how awful and terrible
What
what
happened?
happened is, and the fact that the death toll is still rising, and how terrifying it sounds like being caught on an island with wildfires that are
Racing
spreading as
towards
fast
you.
as they were explaining that. It was like, that sounds like a horror movie.
Absolutely. And there are still almost 1,000 people who are still missing. Jeez. So this could really turn out to be
Really bad.
really devastating.
Well, not to end on that note, Tony Zimmerman did just give us a quote that says, Andrew Jackson was called a jackass, but he kind of liked it and adopted Jackass Johnson as the name. And it was not long after that the donkey became established as the symbol of the Democratic Party.
Oh.
So there you go. So that explains the donkey.
Okay. What about the elephant?
Don't know about the elephant. We may have to, we only have a minute left in the show, so we may have to come back tomorrow with the update on how the elephant became the symbol of the Republican Party. But thank you to our guests today, John Plageman from Section Yellow, Brian Sampson, and Issac Hoffman from La Crosse, talking about the homelessness there. If you missed any part of today's show, you can always go back and listen to it as a podcast. Please subscribe when you're on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also always find it on asgoeswisconsin.com/listen. We'll be back tomorrow. This has been As Goes Wisconsin.